You have to commit to playing a Souls game. It's not something you just... It's not Splatoon. You don't just log on and play around for 30 minutes and then go to your dentist appointment. It's a game where you sit down and actually commit yourself to playing a game. Okay, so I made a video about how I don't trust people who work in the gaming industry to tell me how gaming is and what's going on with the industry, because people that work in the industry and work for video game companies, they're not going to say that a game is bad because they want access journalism. They're not going to give you the actual... They're not going to come out and say Starfield was bad because of the lack of content and Bethesda embellished and overpromised, and, you know, they're not going to come out and say that Dragon Age Veilguard looks like garbage and it's terrible and it's not even trying to give people what they want from Dragon Age Origins. It's just trying to do its own thing and still call itself Dragon Age. They won't come out and say that because they want to work in the industry. And Alana Pierce is back in the news. She called having a child a disability.
Just a lot of people really not understanding the conversation about accessibility in Elden Ring. It has been brought up very...
You gotta love people who work in the industry telling gamers that they don't understand the conversation. You're not having the same conversation we're having. You guys are making movies and calling them video games. You guys are making opinion pieces and propaganda pieces and calling it video games. We're over here playing games from 20 years ago and playing games that feel like they were made 20 years ago and loving it. So there is no conversation. And if there is, it's not this. You're not having the same conversation that you think you're having with us.
Various times across various mediums by various people that Elden Ring is not... Well, FromSoft games in general are not particularly accessible to disabled players.
Not everything has to be accessible. We're not talking about a ramp at a business. We are not talking about handicap accessible elevators. We are not talking about handicap parking spaces. We are not talking about necessities. We are talking about video games. One of the most, what would you call it? Excessive, opulent things that you could possibly spend your time doing. Playing video games is a hobby for people who have no problems, or for people who are running away from their problem. It is not something that disabled people need to be doing. Like, yeah, it's great if they can play video games, but, you know, not everybody needs to play video games or wants to play video games or should be playing video games. Some people need to get a job.
People are asking for accessibility. I'm not actually asking for an easy mode. That isn't the intent. Here's the thing I want to spell out where accessibility is concerned.
By the way, I almost reacted to a different video that she made, but I had to stop because she was playing Persona 5's soundtrack in the background. You are not allowed to use the Persona 5 soundtrack. I don't know how many times I've clicked on a video and I've heard the Persona 5 soundtrack. I love the Persona 5 soundtrack. But now I hate the Persona 5 soundtrack because you people will not stop using it in your videos. I use a different song in every video. You know how many video games there are? Hundreds of thousands. Probably millions at this point. At least 1 million video games are out there. Or damn near close. Use some different music. Well, I'm sick of hearing the Persona 5 soundtrack. It's to the point where I don't even want to play the game anymore because the soundtrack is ruined for me. Because you people keep using the same song. We get it. It's nice, chill music. But when you play it in every single video... Okay, let's play this video.
People who are disabled, I felt myself doing it, I'm going to do it, is another tangent. There are also multiple kinds of disabilities, especially where gaming is concerned. There are long-term disabilities.
People who say that they hate Call of Duty, but then keep playing it. I'm talking about you, Dr. Disrespect, but you got some other issues you gotta work through, so we'll keep that to the side.
There are situational disabilities. There are temporary disabilities. It counts as a...
What is a temporary disability? Like you break your leg? That's not really like you're not really disabled. A disability is something that you have to live with. Like you're like, it's usually something genetic. It's usually something like you lost an arm or a leg or something, or you have like a learning disability or something. It's something that you can't just, you know, let it heal for a couple months and then it's back. Like I don't understand. Temporary disability. You mean an inconvenience? You mean an illness? Something that heals over time?
Disability where a video game like Elden Ring is concerned, if you have a kid, you have a 2-year-old, you're trying to play Elden Ring, you can't pause It is a situational disability that you have, where...
So this is the viral clip. She's conflating disability with responsibility. And this is what I'm talking about with people in the industry. They're not having a conversation with us. They're not even in the room with us. They're not bringing us into consideration at all. They're talking about accessibility features. We need to start making games for people who have children. What? So you're making games for people who don't even play games. Now you're making games for people who don't even have the time to play games. Like, what are you talking about? And this woman worked on God of War Ragnarok, which is probably why when I played it, I said to myself, what is this? Disney's God of War Ragnarok? This game is, I mean, the gameplay when you're actually playing is all right. But what, all of us, like maybe halfway or maybe like a quarter of the way through the game, all of a sudden you start playing as Atreus. Why? And then you're led by the hand by a Disney princess, and she shows you all about how part of your world. You get to see all of the, oh my god, look at this. She rides a bull, and she oh, look at all the flora and the fauna. And it's like, can I get back to killing gods? Can I get back to being the god of war? What is this Mickey Mouse Disney garbage? And it got even worse, because then you start fighting an actual Disney villain and flying around, and your little Disney princess is flying around throwing pixie dust at her. I'm like, can I get back to the god of war? I mean, what is this? I literally stopped playing because I first of all, I knew that this game was going to have stuff like this in it. So I purposely bought the game used so that I wouldn't give these people any more of my money just because I wanted to see what this game was like. And I'm so glad I bought it used and I didn't support this, because as I was playing it, I was like, this isn't even God of War. This isn't even like the reboot. This is just Disney's God of War. It's garbage. And she worked on it as a writer. She worked on Disney's God of War Ragnarok. She was in Cyberpunk. The most rebellious thing that she's ever done is show people that Bethesda was lying about Starfield. You can't just fly to different planets. She flew to Pluto and she showed you that it was just a PNG floating in space.
However, it's extremely low res. You are definitely not supposed to be this close. I mean, why would anyone do this in this game anyway? It's insane. And there are a lot of people who have different opinions about, like, oh, it's realistic. What did you expect from space travel? Versus, like, it's a video game, so you should be able to travel and it should be fun. I think I'm in the camp of people of, like, the point of this game, especially now that I've played a lot more of it, is that it's an RPG and it's about talking to people. It's not really a space exploration game, and that's okay. But
again, misunderstanding the game. Bethesda games are not about talking to people. They're about making a character and living in the world. And yeah, you talk to people to get quests, but then you go and you play the game. But this game barely had any game in it. And one of the things that they promised was that you can go to all these different planets, and then you fly to Pluto, and then you can't even land on it.
So we get there. The resolution's terrible, clearly not designed for you to be this close. And then as I get very, very, very close to the surface, like a few meters away, you start to see the headlights of the ship show up on the planet. So it's like a big white light. Ooh. It was flat. Pluto confirmed flat. Flatter.
So she proved that Pluto wasn't even a planet that you can fly to and land on. It was just a PNG that you can fly through. And then you're just now you're just on the other side. So that was the most rebellious thing that she's ever done. She made Bethesda look like a bunch of liars, saying that this game was so great you can fly anywhere and do anything. That was the most rebellious thing that she did. And I'm wondering, because she looked a lot healthier in this video. She looked a lot happier and a lot healthier in this video. I'm wondering if the industry got to her. I'm wondering if they just said, hey, Alana, why don't you do us all a favor? Shut your yap about our games, all right? Start talking about disabilities and stuff like that. Garbage. But here's another thing that I wanted to talk about God of War Ragnarok. This game, talk about accessibility features in games, and talking about we need a pause menu you'd be able to pause in Elden Ring. First of all, yes, I think it's stupid that you can't pause a single-player game, but Souls games are technically not single-player games. They are technically co-op PvP games, and they're always online. So technically, it makes sense that there's no pause button. However, if you select to go offline and you don't want to be invaded and you don't want to play co-op, you should be able to pause the game. The thing that annoys me is God of War Ragnarok doesn't let you skip cutscenes. And the gaming industry is doing this thing where they tell you, oh, it's so hard to make a game. Oh, it costs so much money to make a game. When they're barely making games. They're making movies. And then every 5 minutes of gameplay is followed up with you being held by the hand by an NPC and walking to the next area or watching a cutscene. It's stupid. Once you load up the game and you finally get past the first unskippable cutscene, you realize that they've ruined the vibration feature. I'm in a menu pushing up and down and my controller is vibrating. Why? And then I try to disable vibration in menus, and there's no option to disable vibration in menus. Why is it on by default? Why is there not an ability to remove it? And I can understand, like, you know, remember in Metal Gear Solid when Snake would, like, pick up a rifle and, like, fire it, and in the cutscene, and your controller would vibrate in the cutscene? Or he would pick something up and your controller would vibrate to show that you're connected to Snake? It was a subconscious way of immersing the player, and it was awesome. But I don't want my controller to vibrate every single time I hit a button in a menu. So while you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars to make a video game where most of the game is watching an unskippable movie, screw a pause button in a basically always online game. In a game that the Souls games are about you have to commit to playing a Souls game. It's not something you just it's not Splatoon. You don't just log on and play around for 30 minutes and then go to your dentist appointment. It's a game where you sit down and actually commit yourself to playing a game. And when there's cutscenes, you can skip them because it's about the game. So this is a woman who worked for a studio who made a game, calling it a game when it's mostly a movie full of unskippable cutscenes, and you can't even turn off the vibration feature in menus. You have to play with no vibration or vibrating every single time you hit a button. These companies are frauds. You're making games for normies and people who don't care about the craft. They don't care about actually sitting down and playing a video game. They just care about, oh, flashing lights. Oh, the game looks great. I love the graphics. I can't stand an industry shill. I can't stand the industry. I'm ending the video now.